In a remote wilderness shrouded in ash and fear, a woman awakens in the wreckage of her truck with bloody handprints and a bullet hole on the window and a baby in the back seat. She doesn't know how she got there. She doesn't know whose child it is. But she will soon learn one thing. Someone wants her dead. As fire rains from the heavens and the ground trembles beneath her feet, Kit, a tough-as-nails long-haul trucker who wants nothing but peace and isolation, must work together with a former cop to escape the fiery clutches of mountain and men. Two strangers, one abandoned child, and a race against nature. This is Fire Mountain, a Christian romantic suspense from USA Today bestselling author Dana Mentink. The mountain is waking, and so is the truth. Strap yourself in for a wild ride. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Bookish Introverts Podcast. Join host Amazon bestselling author Brett Nelson and avid reader Melanie Dyer as they dive in to review books they've read, then chat with the amazing authors behind them. Quiet minds, big bookshelves. You don't want to miss it.
Hey everyone, it's Brett and Melanie, and we're back today with episode 7 of our Baker Publishing Summer Author Event. Before we get too deeper into the intro, for those of you who are regular listeners, you'll notice that Melanie has been gone for quite a while. We've talked about it a little bit on the podcast. She's had a little bit of some health stuff going on. So Why don't you give the listeners just a little bit of a quick discussion about what's been going on with you, and then we'll move on to our guest.
Yeah, I was taking chemotherapy pills, and they decided, you know what, that's not going to be enough. So they started me on infusions, and it's a lot more aggressive. And so I had to take a break. I didn't want to leave Brett hanging. And I told him, I was like, it's just, every 2 weeks. And sometimes I can't do it because my white count is down, and so that throws the schedule off. I said, I'm pretty unpredictable right now. So probably best that I step back. It's going okay. There's good days, bad days. We're hoping for, the last report was a good one. So we're hoping for more good reports soon. And just keep going.
Keep thinking, keep praying.
Aiming for treatment until I can take a break.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. We're looking forward to that day.
It will be nice. It will be nice.
So she is still watching us and cheering us on. She's just doing it from behind the scenes instead of in front of the scenes. So yeah, we miss you. That's for sure. Well, let's jump in and talk to our guest today.
Yes.
If you love reads that are reminiscent of those edge of your seat disaster movies, you won't want to miss today's episode. And I know you're a fan of those just like I am. Right.
I was so excited when I read the foreword because I saw Mount St. Helens, and I was like,
yes, for sure. Yeah.
Obsessed. Anything I could find about Mount St. Helens. And it's like, okay, so I get to picture like Dante's Peak while I'm
reading a book.
while I'm reading this book. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So our guest today, she's a USA Today and Publishers Weekly best-selling author. She's written more than 50 mystery and suspense novels for love-inspired suspense, Harvest House, and Poison Pen Press. She's the winner of 2 Carol Awards, a Holt Medallion, and a Romantic Times Reviewer's Choice Award. So Dana Mentink, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here, and welcome back, Melanie. Honored to be here with you too.
I'm glad I could be here today. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the first thing we have got to get into, Dana, totally unrelated to your book, but you and I sent an email back about a week ago, and you were telling me about an event you've got coming up today. You've got to tell me about this event you've got coming up today.
I'll just say that I'm generally a figure reality. The more you save reality, the best. And life at Mentink Manor is wild. What can I tell you? So we're hosting a reptile show today at my house. Frogs and snakes and turtles and all kinds of things. And you probably wonder why in the world. And I wonder that myself, honestly. My daughter is a vet tech. So over the years, while she was schooling, we had frogs and parakeets and, everything. So she's a big girl now, all grown up. And she said, Mom, the guy who taught us the class on reptiles, he does shows and he's in the area. And I'm like, that's so cool. And she said, you want to go? And I said, yes. And she said, and can we have it at your house? And
Oh,
I
Yeah,
said, okay,
the plot
sure.
thickens.
that's a little different from
Well,
Do You Want to Go?
right, exactly. And well, we do own a very geriatric box turtle ourselves. We're her third owner, and we've had her for 35 years. So it's always good to learn
Wow.
about reptiles, but it really has nothing to do with writing.
Yeah, absolutely nothing, but it's still interesting. Now, what kind of reptiles is it? Is it like, now when I think of reptiles, I think of snakes, which makes my skin crawl.
So I understand we're having one of those giant frogs and a snake, and I'm guessing turtles and
Oh,
lizards,
okay.
geckos, that kind of thing. So yeah,
Wow.
interesting.
How many people are we expecting to show up for this event?
It's small, only like a dozen or so. I
Oh,
think
okay.
there's more animals than people, but we want no escapes. Okay, that's what we're praying for. No reptiles escaping in Mentink Manor would be great.
Yes. And if they
Yeah.
do, let's just not let it happen in the house.
It's
Exactly.
very hot here, so it's all in the house today. I'm like, oh dear. Okay, well,
Oh
keep an
my.
eye on
Oh.
that snake, would ya?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I was looking over your series of books, and some of them, I mean, they all sound really interesting, but there's some really stuck out to me. So tell us about your Storm Swept series. That one, I'm a storm junkie. I think I missed my calling as a storm chaser. Tell us a little bit about that series.
Well, that was fun to write because we started out with a big earthquake, and of course, in California, we know about earthquakes. We've been through Loma Prieta and pretty devastating situations. So I think we did earthquake, hurricane, and flood in that series. That was a while ago, so you're testing me here, Brett. But
I get it.
no, I just love that scenario when you are literally cut off from help, because we have help everywhere, right? We have cell phones. Anywhere
Right.
you go, you have help. But during
Yeah.
a natural disaster, I mean, you got to find out what your resources are and what your faith level's like, and how you can survive. So I enjoy that scenario.
Yeah, when it kind of gives, it's kind of relevant to the book we're talking about today, because that does sort of feed into that whole natural disaster thing. So that's one for sure. I'm gonna check out at some point. I was also interested about your Treasure Seekers series. Can you give us just a few words about that one?
You know what? I'm just going to tell you insider information. That was my best-selling series of all time. I love that. I love a Treasure Seeker series. Don't you love that notion where like somebody goes to a flea market and buys this little painting and come home and finds out it's a $2 million Vermeer or something. So that was a really fun series to write.
Yeah.
I think that's one of if I recall, a detective agency that kind of specializes in helping people find things. I'm always interested in people who lose things and find things. That's really interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. That one just seemed really interesting. Was that through the Love Inspired? Was that when you were with Love Inspired? Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of like the Love Inspired suspense. So, and then also for those who maybe not be into those, you also have sort of a lighthearted contemporary set of books. Just give us a quick mention about those. Is it kind of like rom-com type books?
The ones for Harvard House are pretty much sweet romance with a little mystery mixed in. A lot of laughs, a lot more laughs than you get in Suspense.
Yeah.
That's
So
fun.
what I'm taking away from this is no matter what you like, Dana Mentink has a book for you.
That's what it sounds
Well,
like.
if you like Christian fiction and you like clean, wholesome fiction, I'm the person for you. If you're like a 50 Shades person, probably not me.
And I am so not.
You'll be disappointed with mine, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, I am so not one of those. I like clean. And so you wanna ask a quick question?
Sure. Do you have any daily goals that you set for yourself when you're writing anything? I mean, do you do like an outline? See, I used to write. I don't have time now, but I would just sort of blah. They went all over the page, but I've never been good at outlining. But I know a lot of authors are.
Well, the publishers I've written for have kind of shaped me in that they expect a synopsis in 3 chapters. So if you write a synopsis, you pretty much know where the book's going to go. You know the big dots, like those little dot pictures we used to do. You know the dots, and you can figure out how to get there. So I don't really sit down and say, I don't know where the book is going, because I would not have sold it. I would not have contracted it. You see what I mean? So it's fun to play in between the lines, but I kind of already know where the lines are. So daily word count goal, that kind of thing. keeps you on track and gets you where you need to go when it needs to be there.
Especially if you've got a deadline.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what?
And when you're a writer, you've always got a deadline.
I just learned, I looked up, what does deadline mean? Like, where does that word come from? And it comes from, it used to be for prison, a historic prison where they didn't have fencing. So they would say to the prisoners, here's the deadline. If you cross this line, we're going to shoot you dead. So that's what a deadline means. I know. Isn't that wild?
So like every time you hear the publisher say, here's your deadline, that's the first thing you think of.
Right. Don't be late.
They'll show up at your house.
That's going to shed a whole new light on the word for me. Yeah.
It's a serious word. It's a serious word.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it difficult to maintain like a work-life balance, especially when you've got a deadline? Because you've got family and...
It's funny how when I was an elementary school teacher for a long time, and I retired from elementary school teaching, and you think, I have all this unscheduled time. But people find out, especially church people, they find out that you work from home. And they just assume that, you can just do that for a few minutes and then you can come out and do all these things.
Yes, you're at their beck and call.
No, I don't want to. I want to do the important things in life, and you have to find a balance between, I'm sorry, I can't do coffee with you right now. So, yes. But it's always people before program, though, because people are more important than words. So you always want to try to figure out, okay, if you can stay up later and still meet this person for coffee and have a good talk and a good fellowship, then that's the important thing to do. It just takes a lot of juggling,
It does, yeah. Well, and life's just not fun unless you're playing a little, it's all about those family connections and the friend connections, and there have been times, because I'm a writer too, and there have been times when I've just gotten an impromptu call from somebody and been like, oh, we're going to go eat Mexican food, join us there. And I'm just like, I can't, because you're in the middle of a scene, you're in the middle of that,
you'll lose
your momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are times.
Yeah, you have to have some level of discipline, but always the balance. That's the hardest part, is finding the balance.
Keeping that balance.
The business and the people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's jump into this book. So the book we're talking about today is Fire Mountain. And when Baker reached out to me, they sent me a whole list of authors, and they were like, hey, these are the books being released this summer. Are there any that you would like to have on your podcast? So I looked over and I was like, oh, I would love to have any and all of them on, because I love talking to my fellow authors. And as soon as I saw Fire Mountain, I just had this chill just go up my spine, because that is so the kind of book I love, those natural disaster movies. And so this was one of the books that I was like, I've definitely got to read this one. So it's called Fire Mountain. It releases, I believe, on July the 1st. Is that right? July the 1st. And one of the major nemeses in the book is a about to erupt volcano. So our heroine, Kit, is a long haul truck driver. She finds herself sort of, I guess, like in a wreck, and she doesn't remember who she is. She doesn't remember why she's there. She knows she's in an area where she normally wouldn't be, because this area that she's in, they're under a red warning, which means the volcano could erupt at any time. And
why are you here?
Exactly. Yeah. And basically everyone in town that is intelligent has already left. So Kit can't figure out why she's here. Well, so while she's trying to get out, this man comes up and knocks on her. He's trying to help her get out. Of course, she's a little bit, what's this guy doing here?
Understandably. Yeah,
understandably so. So he's trying to help her, and they find a bullet hole and a bloody fingerprint on the passenger side window, which tells them, okay, something weird is going on. While in the middle of there trying to figure everything out, she hears a weird sound, like an unusual sound from the back seat. Dana, tell us what that is.
Yes, she finds a baby strapped in the back of her rig, and it's not her baby. She doesn't have any hers. Nope. So it's a mystery.
Yep.
And it kind of propels the story from there. There's other people who are looking for that baby. So there's some human predators. There's a mountain. So we got a lot going on for poor Kit. It's not a good day for Kit.
It's a lot for Kit.
It's a lot. She's not having a good day.
Yeah.
So it's one of those running for your life stories in a number of ways.
It is. Yeah. What's the guy, the Colin? Colin is sort of a what does he do? It's been several weeks since
He
I've
owns a
read this.
He's a retired cop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, a retired cop, and he has not left. He is still in town. So, kind of tell us why he is still in town.
Well, he's kind of one of these people that wants to help, but he's also got some reasons why he is kind of escaping some things. But his story is that he's staying to help make sure his neighbors get all their livestock out. And while he's working on his place, he just happens to see from his vantage point her truck go over the edge. And so, being the heroic guy he is, he jumps in there to help, and then he's trapped there too.
He's trapped there too. Yeah. And it's a race against time for all of them to sort of, yeah.
Luckily, a Volcano takes a little bit of time to fully erupt.
Well,
you get all the fun stuff that comes in stages beforehand, but
yeah,
it does. They do have a little bit of time,
but you just don't know how much.
You don't know how much. That's the problem.
Yeah. And I've never been in a volcano, but
Luckily,
it's kind of the perfect ticking clock, right? I mean,
it
really kind of
is.
Yeah,
It
really kind of is.
Yeah. Well, and the unpredictability of it really does keep you on the edge of your seat because you've got the human nemesis that they're kind of trying to dodge, as well as the natural disaster part. So
yeah, and I think you did a very good job. I'm not usually one for suspense as far as reading goes. We like to challenge each other with stuff that we don't usually like. He doesn't like historical fiction, and I love it. So, but I think you did a very good job as far as, because I'm sitting there and I'm reading. I read it. I didn't have a good week, so I read your book Thursday.
Oh,
I read it Thursday night. I read the whole thing.
You didn't get much sleep then.
I read it. I was going to read half of it and half of it Friday, and then I was like, no, just another chapter.
Well, but
just one more chapter. I can't leave it there. Just one more chapter.
Which is the mark of a good book when you can't put it down.
It's a very good book.
Yeah, but I will say, I don't know how Melanie does it, but she can read an entire book in a whole day, and I just can't do that.
I can. I used to devour the Left Behind books. They'd be released, and I'd go and get it, and I was like, okay, I can't read it in one sitting, and I'd just read it in one sitting. I'd have to wait a year for the next one.
Yeah.
But I thought you did an excellent job weaving the suspense, because I'd be sitting there reading it, and then they'd mention the volcano. I was like, oh, dang, I forgot about the volcano. This volcano that they've got to worry about. Just so much going on at the same time. And I thought you did a great job at keeping all those elements in play.
My editors have said, Dana, that's a lot going on. So my editors are like, cool your jets, we need to focus here. So,
but is that kind of your jam as an author, writing those kind of stories and achieving that balance of when there's a lot going on, but because there's a craft to making that work?
Yes. And it's the one you have to learn. As a young writer, I was told, Dana, there's so many threads in your plot. You got to simplify. And then if you simplify too much, I just never like that. It's like dumbing it down for the reader. I don't like that as a reader. I don't like that. So you got to find the balance, right? We were talking about balance. It's all about that.
Yeah. Well, and there another balance you kind of had to achieve in this as well, is because not only is it sort of a suspense novel, but there's also a romance plot as well. And
can you believe it? Isn't that wild? A romance?
Yeah. And that's sort of one of my pet peeves about, so to speak, about romantic suspense, is that, of course, I'm not the hugest romance reader. I tend to go more toward the thriller, suspense, that sort of stuff. She loves the romance. And sometimes for me, I'm like, how can you be focused on romance at all when you're facing such extreme, but again, you achieve that balance so well, because the romance didn't take away from the suspense, but the romance, it wasn't so heavy that it took away from the suspense. So tell us a little bit about how you achieved that balance.
Well, in a survival novel, the advantage you have is it's a crucible, right? So all of the extraneous parts, all the pretense, all the game playing is gone. You truly see the person for who they are. It's like you and God, right? So in that way, it's helpful for writing a romance. The trap to fall into is it might take place like in 5 to 7 days usually. So we're not going to fall in love in 5 to 7 days. We're going to start being interested in each other, and we're going to realize that is an amazing person that I want to get to know better. But realistically, we're not going to say, I love you as soon as somebody hauls them out of the wilderness, you know? So you kind of have to run that balance of how does it play after that? And how can you communicate that without completely slowing down the story? So tricky, because you don't want it to be trauma bonding, right? That's going to happen in a situation like that, but that's not the same as love, a lasting love. So tricky.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you achieved that so well on all counts because no one overshadowed the other. It was a very, I could see the characters, like there wasn't really anything in it that stuck out to me as just like totally, unrealistic. So, so it was a great fun read.
It really was.
I'm so glad you
tell us a little bit about Kit. She's sort of a hands-off, don't get to know me sort of person. And there's a little bit of a story behind there. And with that, we and for the readers listening, we're not going to give any spoilers.
Right.
But tell us a little bit about her. Her character's kind of different.
She's a loner.
She's a loner.
And there's a reason, and it's understandable. But
had some burdens. I think the most interesting thing to me about Kit is that she has a very religious mother. And there was a big upheaval in her family, and her mother could not forgive her father. And that's been a really hard pill for Kit to swallow because Christianity is all about forgiveness. And certainly her mother, churchgoer, all about forgiveness, right? But yet when it came to it, she could not forgive her husband. So it's really an interesting thing to write, to see how that plays out in Kit's life and how is she able to forgive other people and even her mother. And her view of God and how that kind of worked out in her life. But it's kind of left her a bit of a loner. And so long haul trucking is perfect for her. She has her little sleeper car in her truck. She doesn't need other people until she runs into this volcano. And then all of a sudden she needs other people badly. So
badly. Yeah.
Hard to accept that though, when you've got years of independence and I don't need you. So she has to struggle with that while she's running away from this volcano and other stuff and trying to deal with this baby. She has no experience with.
Any loss of independence is hard, is humbling, and it's a thing we struggle with. All of us struggle with that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and both she, Kit, and Colin, in the hands of a not as accomplished author, those could have been very unlikable characters because Kit was like, I don't need anybody, I don't need anything, I'm just, all I need is me. And Colin could have been the macho guy, I'm going to help you whether you want it or not. And so
fall into tropes.
And I didn't feel like they fell into those tropey kind of things. No. So again, I liked that Colin sort of had a softer side toward her, and it was fun to watch the progression of Kit's softening along the way.
Because it was gradual, as gradual as it could be over the course of a few days.
But 80,000 words, it's as gradual as it can be.
Which again is realistic because people don't melt that fast. You generally, they don't melt that fast. It takes some time when you have trust issues.
Yes.
So one thing that kind of stuck out in my mind, and it doesn't really have. You know how when you're reading a book and just things just sort of pop in your mind and it's totally irrelevant, but it still is kind of relevant in a way. Kit's mother, of course, had this problem with forgiveness. Her husband committed, and I don't know how to word it, but he did something that he shouldn't have. And he went to jail for a while. Am I remembering that correctly? Yes. Okay. So, and a lot of the Christian community kind of lashed out at her mom. She was sort of a guilty by association person, which is totally unfortunate. And I am a huge true crime junkie, and I have watched several people of like notorious people that have done horrible things in life. And I've watched one that that particularly hit my mind as I was reading this was Dylan Klebold's mom. Dylan Klebold was one of the Columbine shooters. His mom has just been brutally attacked by the public, and she had nothing to do with it. She didn't know what was going on. And another one, there was a serial killer. Which one was it? Jeffrey Dahmer. No, it wasn't Jeffrey Dahmer. One of the notorious serial killers. His sister has been brutally attacked by the public. She had nothing to do with it. She didn't know what was going on, and so like for some reason that kind of popped in my mind too, because it's like how we can so easily could become, and sort of what happened to her mom bled into the family unit.
Yes, yeah, and it's indicative, unfortunately, of a lot of things one of the things that push people away from Christianity, because and away from the church, because, there can be a couple that with, a couple of kids and they get a divorce, and all of a sudden, because they're divorced, that family is just, you can't,
because
you can't be with us. And that's not what
we're not told to clean up and come to Jesus. We're told to come to Jesus, and he took all the mess, right? So we need to remember that as brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah.
But it's, we all have our flaws and failures, and it's really hard. I think too, Kit's mom projected a bit as well, because she was very embarrassed, and she was horrified and I think somewhat she couldn't face maybe those Christians who were willing to reach out and say, we want to walk with you through this. She was like, I can't, I'm so embarrassed. So lots of difficulty with that situation.
Yeah. Which totally gives you more sympathy for Kit. It makes you realize kind of why she is the way she is.
Yeah, it's completely understandable why she is. It's not like she's taken things too hard or something. It's a very human reaction.
Yeah.
So what she's gone through.
And that's one of my favorite kind of books. I love family dynamics type books.
They're very interesting.
Yeah. And a lot of my books tend to focus more on family dynamics than romance and, and stuff like that. So, it's just kind of fun to see how Kit's, it was sort of a trickle effect. Her dad made this unfortunate mistake. It totally impacted her mom's life, which caused it to impact Kit's life in a horrible way, and it was a unfortunate trickle effect for her. So
isn't that the way families go, though? We're knit together, so one choice and decision does impact kids and trickle down theory. So
absolutely,
it's families are tricky. I think we have families so we can kind of practice loving, because families are hard to love. It's sometimes very difficult. Sometimes it's easier to love your friends than your family because you know each other's flaws and failures so closely. So God gives us a chance to practice with our families how to love people well.
Exactly.
As best you can.
Yeah, because if you can't love your family, you can't love anybody.
It's hard, though. It's tricky.
Yeah, it is. It can be. Yeah.
It can be hard.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure. And there was one scene in the book where Kit, they were sort of on their way. They were trying to get away from the volcano. Well, there was one point in the book where Kit wanted to go back to her truck. She wanted, because that her whole identity is tied up in that rig of hers.
Yeah.
And like in the back of my mind, I was like, lady, are you crazy? You're wanting to get closer to the volcano instead of further away from it. But again, as you get into that and read her story, it kind of makes sense, because that book was that truck was her whole identity. And so she needed to get her identity back, so to speak.
And I think in the moment it's a trauma response, because she's suddenly realizing, wait, everything I think just kind of hits her at once. And she focuses on just, wait, I need this. And Colin's over here like, you what?
Yeah.
You need what?
Sometimes we stay in those bad situations, right? Because that's safe and that's known. And we hold on to it so tight, even though God's saying, let go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really hard to let go.
It is. Yeah. So what was your, like, was there a lesson in that when you wrote that scene? Like, kind of, what was your?
Well, I think sometimes God protects us from what we want. You know,
Mhm.
we want
What we
something
want's not
so
always what he
badly.
wants.
Exactly.
Right. We want something so badly, and he's saying, I have something better for you, but you have to let go of the thing you're clinging to first.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's so hard. It's so easy to write that and so hard to do it.
Well, isn't that usually how it goes though? So, sometimes the things that are the easiest said are the hardest to implement. It really is true.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
so
it reminds me of that
right.
little picture. You guys probably seen it. There's a little girl with a teddy bear, and Jesus is standing in front of her. She's got this little bitty teddy bear, and he's got this great big teddy bear behind his back, a big huge one. And she's like, "But I love it. I don't want to give him to you." and I think he says something like, "Well, I know, but I've got something better for you. It's just getting rid. It's just letting go of those little things in our life to see the big picture things that God has for us." So.
Easier said than done, for sure.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have to say, and we haven't really talked about him yet, and I don't want to get too much into him because it could get into spoilery territory, but I love Archie. Archie just, I think I was maybe 2 paragraphs into his introductions. I love this guy. Yeah. He's fantastic. I absolutely adore him. And it's hard to bring in, we'd had just Kit and Colin for quite a while before, because they're running around and trying to get to safety. And it had just been them for quite a while. And it's difficult sometimes when you've got a dynamic that the readers are used to. All of a sudden, there's this new element that you introduce. And sometimes that can be jarring. But he was just... It's like, Archie.
Yeah.
I want to know more about Archie.
Yeah.
So he's a great character. Yeah. He should get his own book. He's a great character, and he was a great addition to the dynamic. He just slid right in there, which is a sign of some very good characterizations.
Yeah. Well, and again, I love the little flip that kind of took place in the book, because Kit had no idea what to do with your baby. She had no maternal instincts whatsoever. No, really. And these 2 men just jumped in like they knew exactly what to do. And I was like, I love that little flip of the script, because it was different, because in most things, you would expect the woman to just be the nurturer and the one to,
right.
And she really didn't even, especially in the beginning, she wanted nothing to do with this kid. She was like, you boys just take care of it.
And I've always thought, just because someone has a uterus does not mean that they are wired with this divine knowledge. I certainly, when I had my babies, I'm like, where is this in the book? I don't know why they're doing this.
Yeah.
So it's more experience, I think, than wiring in this case.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah.
The 2 men really step up. They know what to do with babies. So fortunately.
Yes, because, Colin has experience with a child. We won't get too much into that. And then, of course, Archie apparently is a grandfather. So
yeah,
definitely some experience there.
Yeah.
But I just absolutely loved him. I thought he was such a good addition.
Yeah.
To the whole.
He's a character for sure.
Now,
definitely a character.
Yeah. Now, we're not going to go into any spoiler territory again, but can you give us just a little bit of a glimpse into our human, bad guys? Yeah. The bad guys. Yeah.
It would appear in the beginning that they're after the baby, but we come to find out as we travel through the novel that that's not the case. So there are these 2 individuals who have been tracking Kit and the truck and some certain other situations going on, and they will not give up until they get what they need. There's very great stakes for them to make sure that Kit does not communicate with anyone else what she has found. So, in a way, it really works for them that it's a volcano zone. It works for the villains, I mean, because
it really does. Yeah,
cleared out, so there's no communication, no help.
Yeah.
So.
And they really don't have anything to lose. So, like, I guess if the volcano gobbles them up, that's they don't really have anything to lose.
They're
willing to take the risk. Yeah. So it really was a very good edge of your seat. If you like an edge of your seat, but I will say it's not. It's not something that's going to keep you up at night for most readers. So some people,
it's not scary.
It's not scary. It's just a good edge of your seat, like you said, Dante's Peak. If you like that sort of a movie, this would be a really good one for you to pick up. So we probably need to start wrapping this up because I know you got reptiles waiting on you. So is there anything else? Yeah. Is there anything else about the book you want to talk about before we start wrapping things up?
Well, I will just give you a sneak peek that the next one, there's going to be another one in this. It's loosely related. It's about Colin's brother Gideon, and they are stuck. They are stuck in an area where the dam is failing.
Fun!
Kind of natural disaster thing. So that was a blast to write. We're just doing final edits on that one, so something to look forward to.
Well, and that sounds fantastic because I've never read a book that's centered around a dam about to burst. So that's different. And I think this is the first one out of Volcano too. So you're kind of not even touching on tropes that we've all seen. So I mean, that in itself is a difficult feat. So I'll be looking forward to that one too.
About stuff that's new to me too. So that's good.
That's exciting because I enjoyed Gideon whenever he was.
He wasn't in there much, but he was a good addition to the story for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's do just a little. We've got a few little just sort of questions that maybe that'll just help the readers get to know you a little better. So, is there a book so fantastic that you think is so fantastic you wish you had written?
Wow, there's so many books that are so fantastic.
It's hard to choose, isn't it?
I'm going to have to think about that a while.
I would probably say Francine Rivers. What's that book? Redeeming Love.
Right.
Never thought I would like that book, but that was a phenomenal book.
It was a good book.
It was a phenomenal. This is a strange one, but I would say Mrs. Mike. I don't know if you've ever read that. It's a very old.
I love Mrs. Mike. Oh, that's such a good book.
I mean, I read a lot of books, right? To this day, I cannot forget that scene where her babies have tuberculosis. It was so vividly written that I cried, and I still think about it. And I'm sorry I can't remember the author right now. But the vividness of that writing and her feelings. I mean, I get like choked up thinking about that. And that I read that, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, something. So
that's such a good book.
I'm sure that's not what I would come up with if you gave me a lot of time to think about it, but that's my gut. Yeah. My gut's pulling that one out.
Benedict and Nancy Friedman.
Is that Nancy Friedman?
Yes. Benedict and Nancy Friedman, it says.
I've never heard of it.
I read it when I was in high school.
Yeah, it's very old.
I've never met anyone who knew what it was.
My mother-in-law gave that to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, thanks, Grandma. But then I read it, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Anyway,
then you were like, thank you, Grandma.
It's a fantastic book.
Grandma's so smart. Grandma's so smart.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I don't blame you a bit for that one.
I'm glad that you know that, Melanie, because sometimes I say that I'm like, well, maybe nobody's ever read that. I don't know.
You're like Mrs. Mike. What is that?
I'm an eclectic reader, and I never know any of the books she's talking about. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That one's just read it you will not forget it if you read it. That's for sure.
All right, I may check that one out. Would I like it?
It's based on a true story, isn't it?
Well,
it's sort of loosely based.
It's definitely wilderness survival.
Yes,
but it's very realistic. I mean, and there's romance too, but I thought that was quite realistic as well.
Yes,
so I liked it.
Yeah, all right. I'll add it to my never-ending list of books to read before I die.
Never-ending cigar list.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have anything that you're reading right now, or
I am reading
anything you've read recently?
House.
Oh, Jamie Jo Wright.
Yes, I just did a podcast with her actually a few days ago.
He knows things.
Okay.
Who is your favorite author?
C.S. Lewis.
Again, so hard to say.
C.S. Lewis.
Oh, her favorite.
He's in my top 5 for sure.
and L. Frank Baum, but those are just, not modern authors. So I'm sorry, that's not going to help with recommendations.
Oh, it doesn't matter. No,
It's still
C.S.
valid.
Lewis, legendary, absolutely.
Dana, in the beginning of the podcast, she forced me. She was appalled that I had never read, what was it?
Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. She was yes,
I
she
know,
was
right?
appalled. She was like, you have been reading your whole life and never read. Yeah.
Okay,
So
you need to hang up and go and get that book.
Well, I did.
I made him read it. We
Did you
read
read
it. We
it?
did a
I
podcast.
read it as
Yeah.
a kid, and I was not. I did not follow Jesus at the time I read it when I was 10 years old, and I read it and I loved the story. And then come to find out as an adult, it's Christian allegory. That's brilliance right there.
It is.
It really
Well,
is.
and okay, that's at the time you were reading it when you were 10. Did you catch on to any of those Christian undertones, or was it just more of a fantasy read? Okay.
To be honest, no. It was just compelling.
It's just a good story.
He's a brilliant writer. So.
Yeah.
I mean, what
Did
little
you
kid
catch
doesn't wanna
on
be
because
a
you read
king or a
it? You
queen,
read it
you know?
like what, 8 years old or something like the first time?
I was at a Christian school at the time. Our fifth grade teacher read it out loud to us. She would read a couple of chapters every week.
So were you aware of the Christian undertones at the time?
She pointed out,
Because it was part of the curriculum.
I mean,
Sure.
Christian school. So she,
But
as we
I
went,
read
she
it
pointed stuff
in the
out.
public school, right? See, so isn't that
Yeah.
brilliant? Like you're
That is brilliant.
It is.
brilliant
It
novel.
is.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that you would like to interview, living or dead? I have the feeling I know the answer now, but anyone you could.
I would personally love to sit down with C.S. Lewis, honestly. I don't think I could carry on a very kind conversation with him, though, because he was brilliant.
So
I'm
smart.
not brilliant. So I don't know how it would go, but it would sure be fun to talk to him.
It would at least be nice to sit and chat.
Yeah.
If not interview,
Yeah.
In the presence of this person, yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, tell the readers where they can find you online if they want to look you up, if they want to follow you.
Well, you can find me on danamentink.com. That's where you find all the goodies and the downloads and all of that stuff. I'm very active on Instagram. I amuse myself greatly on Instagram. So there may be some images from the reptile show. You never know.
I'll be looking
on that. So, all the usual cyber stops. I have a private Facebook group we have a prayer group and things like that. So if somebody was interested in that, they'd have to message me to get into that private group. But that's another place, all the usual cyber stops.
Yeah. Are you a big social media person? Like, do you love it? Or is it more of for me, it's more of a necessary evil.
I do love it. And that's because I make the intentional choice that this is Dana. This is not by my books, Dana. There is some of that. But if I can't be me and just talk about reptile shows, then I don't like it. So
yeah,
balance there too, right? Balance, right?
And that's kind of how I treat my author pages too. My author pages are not all Brett, buy my books, buy my books, buy my books. And I've actually had followers that have been like, I really appreciate it. But, when a new book comes out or if a book goes on special or something, I'll say, hey, if you've not read my books, it's on sale or whatever. But I really enjoy promoting other authors on my author pages. If I've read their book and enjoyed it, I'll post just a little short book review on it. And I've had so many readers say, I love that you support other authors on your pages. And I love to do that. Yeah. Because, if I've read a great book, not only do I
share it with
that's why we have this podcast, because we like talking about it. I like talking about it, but I just want to share it with people. So, all right. Well, you need to go and reptile, and we don't want to be responsible for you being late. So, listeners, if you want to follow us, we're everywhere. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok as Bookish Introverts Podcast. You can catch all of our YouTube episode or all of our podcast episodes on YouTube, plus on all the major podcast platforms, Spotify, Audible, Pandora. Yeah, we're just everywhere. If you listen to podcasts, we're probably there. So check us out there. Dana, we want to thank you so much for coming on, for bringing us this great, fantastic book. I really enjoyed this book. Yeah.
It really, really
Thanks
was.
so much for having me. It's been just delightful talking to you.
You as well. You got any parting words, Miss Melanie?
Just, thank you for being here. And thanks for the book, because it was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
I
so
enjoyed
glad
it
you
quite a
enjoyed
bit.
it. Thanks
Yeah,
for taking the time to chat.
Absolutely. And thank you too. So listeners, I can't even remember who's coming on next, but we got another great Baker author coming on next. I kind of think it's Tracy Peterson, but don't hold me on that one.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah.
We talked about it the other day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's her. So come back for more great podcast episodes, and we will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Bookish Introverts podcast, where together we explore the worlds within the pages. Until next time, stay bookish.